My name is Mark Bassir. I'm the Judy and Leonard Lauder Director here at the Portland Museum of Art. And we are so happy tonight to co-present this evening's program detailing the creation of a visitor contact station in Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument, reflecting a Wabanaki worldview which will be a gift to the U.S. National Park Service and open to the public in 2024. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are convening in the land of the dawn, a region encompassing present-day Maine and the unceded homelands of the Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, Micmac, and Wabanaki nations. Together, these nations represent the Wabanaki Confederacy and have stewarded these lands and waters for thousands of years before the establishment of national borders and state lines, and continue to do so today. Teka'kαpimək bee-mook Contact Station, Penobscot word for as far as one can see, Teka'kαpimək bee-mook, rises from the Wabanaki stories and beliefs built of mass timber and clad in raw, locally harvested and milled cedar, with rock anchors deep into cliffside ledge, cantilevering into surrounding forests, yet hidden from view from the canoeists below. Architectural designs resulted from a process between Elliotsville Foundation, representatives of the Wabanaki nations, and Saunders Architecture. The PMA, the Portland Museum of Art, is honored to host tonight's program because our shared beliefs in honoring and empowering communities, strengthening connections to the land, and sustainability. I'd now like to introduce our panel. Norway-based Canadian architect Todd Saunders, Passamaquoddy basket maker Gabriel Frey, Teka'kαpimək bee-mook exhibition writer Jennifer Neptune of the Penobscot, and Elliotsville Foundation President Lucas St. Clair.
Mark, thank you so much. When I first saw the conceptual drawings that Todd was starting to put on paper, I thought, how in the world is something like this going to be built in a place at the time of conception of this building was all trees and miles and miles away from the nearest road, and thinking, wow, how in the world is this going to be done? And as you'll see later in this, it is being done. There is a building going up that you can walk inside now, and it's pretty amazing. So in the present and traditional homeland of the Penobscot Nation, Teka'kαpimək bee-mook Contact Station is a stunning 8,000 square foot interpretive environment, welcoming and orienting the global public to Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument, and it's in northern Maine. In consultation with the U.S. National Park Service, Teka'kαpimək bee-mook is imbued with Indigenous knowledge from the Wabanaki nations, the Micmac Nation, Holton Band of Maliseet Indians, the Penobscot Nation, and Passamaquoddy tribes. Teka'kαpimək bee-mook intentionally incorporates cultural narratives, languages, images, kinship relations, ancestral representations, contemporary practices, and native materials of these lands and these waters. The project was conceived as a gift by Maine-based philanthropist Roxanne Quimby and Elliotsville Foundation, who selected Norway-based Saunders architecture. Teka'kαpimək bee-mook reimagines our relationship with natural and cultural landscapes, building harmoniously in challenging terrain, designing with indigenous sensibilities, and mustering a local workforce in harsh conditions to solve for structural integrity and beauty. Contending with the painful history of settler colonialism, cross-cultural expression of growing trust and creativity have emerged, a confluence of people showing a way forward. Teka'kαpimək bee-mook is a collective action. Wabanaki, designers and builders, philanthropists, and the woods and waters and their inhabitants. We hope that, like nature, it gives much more than it takes. And I'd like to show a short film now.
This place here is very important to the Penobscot Nation. This is part of our homeland.
This is really the landscape where a lot of our oldest stories come to life.
You know, we're in a region here that has been an active part of Maine's forest economy for 150 years. So we started thinking about how we could use a sort of 21st century forest product to show that off.
The objective for the columns for the visitor contact station was both aesthetic and structural. Obviously, we need the building to be able to stand up, but the architect was adamant that he wanted these columns to look like a natural Maine wood product. And the process of generating or creating a glue laminated column makes them look industrial or almost too finished. So doing it in a plant was really not an option. So we had to look at a glued solution.
A glue lamp is typically a small member that's just stacked one after the other. And we were taking big pieces and making really thick members that were flat. Mm-hmm. And so that one little move changed the whole equation.
And this picture began to take shape of just how complicated this was going to be. Trying to understand, well, temperatures and moisture and grain of the wood, flatness of the wood. There's so many different factors that we had to learn how to control.
We needed the glue to pass the test. Basically, with each failure, we picked them off one at a time until the ultimate last testing.
Everything you see inside with the clamps and the welding is all stuff that we came up with. I don't know if you could find it anywhere else. The way that we're making the glue lamp here, it's really unique, and that's
all handmade.
Yeah,
no machines.
Yeah, no, it's all handmade, which is really cool.
Part of the reason that we were hired so young is because we haven't gotten stuck in our ways.
I mean, I graduated high school, and then 2 days later I was up here working. So it was like just such a great opportunity that we've all been presented with.
The gah-gah, bee-mook. You know, it's this idea of how far you can see. That is not just reflecting in that we're on top of a mountain, we can see Katahdin to the west, but it's also this metaphor of how far we can see into the future.
When visitors arrive here at this building, one of my hopes is that they will begin to develop a relationship with this place, be inspired to go out and experience it for themselves, to get some of that positive feedback that I think we all have received from being in this incredible landscape.
There are so many ways the respect for this place and the natural world has been incorporated into the design. A lot of times the story of the North Woods starts with the logging industry, but it's so much richer and deeper than that.
So I'd like to introduce Jennifer Neptune. Jennifer is a Penobscot basketry and beadwork artist living in Maine and has worked in the field of cultural preservation for over 25 years. She has won national awards for artwork, specializing in ash and sweetgrass baskets, beadwork, and porcupine quill jewelry. So obviously there is a real connection between the Indigenous community and a healthy planet. And so when you think about this project, how is it connected to a need for a healthy planet?
It is connected in so many different ways. We first met together and we walked up Lookout Mountain to the site where it would be. I've been won over just because of the care and all the thought that went into using the rocks and the stones from the site to help build the roads, and all these different factors that went into it. Being off-grid, which is really amazing for a visitor contact station like this, like really thinking out of the box to make it friendly to this place and to blend into the environment. So as Indigenous people and Native people, we don't feel that the trees and the land and the rocks and the birds and all that wildlife, we don't feel like we're above them, like they're our relatives and our relations, and so we care about that and try to think about that. And so this building really reflects that in a way that a lot of projects don't.
That's a word that I started using more, and I learned this from working with the Wabanaki Advisory Board, is the idea of relationship as opposed to stewardship. In the conservation community, we often have stewardship committees that think about how we're going to take care of the land. And I think all of us probably have, in one way or the other, realized that the land really takes care of us in the same way that we take care of it. And it's much more of a relationship than it is.
Yeah, it's a relationship and it's reciprocity, that we need each other.
Yeah.
And that we can't survive without that relationship and that reciprocity.
So Todd Saunders is a Norway-based Canadian architect, and he's been known to infuse his contemporary buildings with artistic sensibility that is deeply in tune with the uniqueness of northern terrains. Born in Gander, Newfoundland, Todd studied architecture at McGill University in Montreal before moving to Norway and establishing Saunders Architecture in 1998. Something that I've found that was immediately attracted to in your work, Todd, is that you've built these buildings, you've designed these buildings in breathtakingly beautiful areas where natural resources really speak for themselves in a lot of ways. Yet the built environment has enhanced the natural beauty, right? And so I am curious to think about or hear you respond to how does the built environment contribute to uplifting a place? And then also, how does it benefit these economies and these communities that are here?
When I started doing this work, we started very small projects, not cutting down any trees and integrating the trees into the deck. And it was just more of a respect for nature. And it was like different types of nature at different places. Like in Katahdin, it was so nice to see that no one sees the building. It's like a quiet thing that is hidden away, whereas Fogo Island is more an apostrophe on the landscape. In terms of the economy, there's a lot of responsibility in this. And at Fogo Island, for example, there's 80 new small businesses after the inn was built. And the hourly lookout I did, the the economies went up there because of that in tourism.
We started working with you, Todd, prior to really putting any scaffolding around the project. And then we started thinking, we really want this to be in collaboration with Wabanaki community. And you had come to Maine, you'd seen a lot of the architecture here and had drawn a building. And then we had established this Wabanaki Advisory Board. We started working together and we showed them the building. And the response was like, we don't like it. This represents the architecture of a colonized Maine. And this is where our culture was taken from us. And to Todd's credit, he said, oh, well, let's start again. And it wasn't just a small tweak here and there, but it was that idea went to the wayside.
There was a woman that passed away during the project, and she said the nicest thing. It was, we go at the speed of trust. Me having self-trust is like, I can solve this if I know more information. At that time, I didn't know all the information. And that was being like lost in the woods again. And then we collected more information. Your mom trusted me. You guys trusted me then. And then I said, okay, be back in a couple of weeks. And that was when I knew that this is a building that works for everyone, not just for me, but for all of us. So it was a bit of a trust thing and a bit of being uncomfortable with uncertainty again.
So now I'm going to introduce Gabriel Frey. Gabriel is a basket maker, and his family's been making traditional black ash baskets for over 13 generations. He's inspired by the natural world and the transformation of a living tree into a functional basket. Gabriel was chosen as the United States Artist Fellow in 2019 and Traditional Arts Fellow by the Maine Arts Commission in 2021. How does the gah-gah bee-mook contribute beyond the construction of this building, but how does it contribute to thriving communities?
The project itself is amazing, and the individual artistic expressions are incredible that have gone into this, and they've really been, even to that, I don't know if you guys saw the double curve motifs that were in the design, but those were all developed by community members specifically for this project. So it's a current existing thriving culture that has had the opportunity for expression through this building, right? There's one section of the building where we put tiles in, and that was from the advisory board. We're like, have some way to make individual tiles. Well, then we ended up going, well, how can we actually use that to reinvigorate the Wabanaki ceramics tradition? So EFI hired a ceramicist to work with individual artists in their community to create individual tiles that then she made molds of. So reshaping our own narrative about our arts. Well, then, so the kids are making these pots and firing them, and then also pressing tiles that are then going to be in the building. So in that sense, it's like really not just going to Walmart, buying some tiles and painting on them, but invigorating artistic expression within the community.
The clay is said to have recording properties. Like when we sing, it holds that vibration, and it can hold our stories inside of it. And I think that's remarkable.
One of the things that in the relationship between the building, this asset, when it's completed, will be transferred to an agency of the federal government. There was a moment in this work that we said, whoa, 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 we're not just going to create, or I'm saying, Wabanaki community members said, we're not going to just create things of our culture and story and just turn them over. That is the way in which our culture was taken from us, right? And there is a tradition of that in our country. So we've started working in a really sort of intentional way of how to protect that. Maybe talk about that problem.
Yeah. Early on, there was sort of the question of like, not only the objects themselves, but like, for example, the door handles that are going to be cast in bronze is going to be the original, and what happens to that? Or if something gets removed from the building, what happens to that? Who owns it? And so we started talking about cultural intellectual property. And EFI hired Jane Anderson, who's an Indigenous intellectual property rights lawyer, to draft MOUs and contracts so that all intellectual property of everything that's created by Wabanaki artisans is held by the community members, or if it's a joint project, it's held by everyone who made it. So, the retention of our cultural knowledge has been paramount in driving how these projects are formed, but then also how they're moving forward.
We're at a unique moment where the Secretary of Interior is an Indigenous woman, the Director of the National Park Service is an Indigenous man. So there is a from the very highest levels of the Park Service, there's an interest here, and there's 107 years of legal precedent to not do those things. So it's been this kind of push and pull to get it right. So I'm just going to pose a question to all of you. When you think about this in generations, we're all long gone. People are coming to this place. What do you hope people get from their experience?
I hope that any tribal member or child that goes there is able to see themselves in that place and be proud of who they are and the culture that their ancestors saved for them. And I hope that visitors to the place come away with a deeper understanding of what that place is and what it means to us and has meant to us in a way that helps them form a relationship to that place and the land, and even, the land that they live in. Because, we all need to do that if we're gonna go forward together in a good way. So that's my hope.
You come into the building, you'll get a feeling, and it's up to you what the feeling is. I think that's my role as an architect, to let you experience a place on your own terms.
Yeah, I think I would echo what you said, Jen. To be able to see our culture expressed in our own voice. We weren't giving anything up in order to have a seat at the table. It is pretty profound in today's world to be able to, for Indigenous communities, to be able to say, this is how we see ourselves, and then have that be fully supported, not compromised.
This is a landscape that reveals itself quite slowly. And so visitors, if they're going to spend a short period of time there, need guidance. And so we thought building a place for people to arrive at and get that education and orientation would be really critical. And then as the project began, we thought people really need to understand an Indigenous worldview, and this is the Penobscot homeland, and then it's evolved to what it is. Or I'll just close and thank the three of you for joining me, and I want to thank the entire Wabanaki Advisory Board and their partnership, which has really made this project possible. Right, Ryan, and their willingness to stick with this and really work through the challenges that have presented itself every step of the way. The Portland Museum of Art for hosting us here tonight. are partners that really are making the visitor experience incredible and continuing to focus on the experience that people have as the Friends of Katahdin Woods and Waters. And I would love all of you to become members of the Friends. They are the Park Service's philanthropic partner and have been incredible partners to us. So become members, go to their website, learn more about this project there. And you can also get maps, paddling maps, and a lot of great information about how to visit, and prepare for summer of 2024 when we'll have a grand opening here.